Hi guys, today I'm going to go over the Magicka Dragonite build that I was using in my previous video. I got a fair few comments, people asking what I was running, what were the specifics of my build, so I thought I would go over that quickly today. This is a really enjoyable build. I've been playing it since the Firestorm patch, but it definitely got a bit of a buff in Greymoor with the addition of some mythic items. So just to start things off quickly, I am a non-vampire dark elf. We are running the Bewitched Sugar Skull's Food and the Apprentice Mundus Stone, and I've got all my points into Magicka. For consumables, we are running the Potions of Heroism. These are made by combining Columbine, Dragon Room, and Dragon Blood. They're a wee bit expensive, but they're very, very strong, especially on a DK build, because it lets you just pump out continuous ultimates, which helps your sustain with the Battle Roar passive. Also important to keep a stack of Detect Pots on. There's a lot of Nightblades right now. We are running 5 heavy, 2 light on the body, and we are running dual ice staves. We're actually running 2 separate 5-piece bonuses, which are only active on their respective bars. So on the front bar we are running an Ice Staff of Elfbane. This is charged with the Disease Damage Glyph. Elfbane's a very strong set. It gives nice offensive bonuses for Dragonite on the 2, 3, 4-piece bonus. And then the 5-piece, let me just equip it. So the 5-piece increases the duration of your flame damage over time abilities by 5 seconds. Very, very powerful. It works alongside Grostar really effectively. And it also increases the duration of the burning status effect, which we take full advantage of on this build as well. We're running an Ice Staff just because there's a lot of incoming damage at the moment, and you don't want to be burning through your stamina bar by accidentally blocking on an Inferno Staff front bar. So having the double Ice Staff is really quite nice, and we're not really specializing into either single target or AoE damage, so running either Inferno or Lightning doesn't give us a huge benefit, but Ice Staff is very solid. So we're running Elfbane on this front bar staff, and then we're actually running 4 pieces of Elfbane on the body. So we're running chest, gloves, boots, and also a necklace. The reason we're running 4 pieces here is so that the 4-piece spell damage is active on the back bar. On the back bar we are running Heaties. This is a fantastic set. Solid 2, 3, 4-piece bonuses, giving some recovery and some max Magicka. And the 5-piece, whenever we heal ourselves or an ally, we get a warming aura for 10 seconds. This warming aura is a big, big orange ring around you that constantly gives you and any teammates in the vicinity a fairly sizable heal over time, as well as reducing the stamina costs of sprint, block, and roll. Let me just show you. Just what happens. So, I'm taking some damage. I heal myself, and then there's this big orange ring around me. This is constantly healing me and any teammates within the vicinity. It's a nice heal actually. It's a fairly it's not a burst heal, but it definitely contributes to your overall tankiness alongside your other skills as well. This drops from Ice Reach, one of the new Firestorm dungeons, not too hard to farm. We are running the Frost Staff on the back bar, again to be able to block, and a sash, legs, and a ring. This is an infused spell cost reduction ring, and the previous Elfbane necklace was a triune spell damage necklace. The third set, the monster set that we're running, is Grostar. Both of these pieces are heavy, so that we get 5 heavy on the body with the 3 Elfbane pieces. Grostar is very strong. It synergizes really well with Magicka DK and with Elfbane in particular, because this normally has a 5-second uptime, but with Elfbane increasing the uptime by a further 5 seconds, it becomes 10-second uptime, 10-second cooldown. So theoretically, this can stay up all the time. Sustained damage, very, very good. AoE, and one of the nicest things about it actually is that it's flame damage, which has a high chance of proccing the burning status effect, which through one of Dragonite's passives, the combustion passive, greatly helps with our Magicka sustain as well. On the body, I'm running a mix of impenetrable and sturdy. And then the final set piece, as you probably guessed, is the Malakath's Band of Brutality. This thing is very, very, very good. This thing's fantastic. I've only dug one up so far, so it's a bit of a jack of all trades setup here. I've got Triune with Tri Recovery. The effect is it increases your damage done by 25%, but you can no longer deal critical damage. The thing with a heavy armor Magicka build is that our crit chance is already very, very low. On a heavy armor Dragonite in particular, we've got no intrinsic crit bonuses to our class skills or our abilities at all. So actually, we're not losing out too much by the negative effect of this. But we definitely feel the increased damage. The 25% extra damage makes us that much more threatening on the battlefield. That combined with the healing reduction that we've seen this patch. One thing to note though with this, you can still critically heal. It's just stopping you from doing crit damage. That will be important when I come to talk about the skills. Getting on to the skills. On the front bar, our first skill is Degeneration. This is our major sorcery buff. Very important to keep this up all the time. It does a decent sized dot as well as giving us some nice major skill to passives passively. Keep this up all the time. Shattering Rocks is our main CC ability. This is a fantastic CC, goes through block and dodge. Very difficult to avoid this. People will ask, why am I not running the Fossilized morph? Well, in my experience, a lot of people see themselves get stunned by this, and instinctively, as soon as they break free, they will dodge roll anyway. So you're forcing them to dodge roll whether or not you're rooting them with this ability. But this comes with the additional perk of actually being an extra source of healing. You can see here, if they attack within 4 seconds, the target gets healed for 6.5k. And my philosophy going into this patch actually is with all the healing reduction, any kind of passive source or off healing that we can get, it's very important to try and incorporate that into the build just to make yourself as passively tanky as possible. That also carries over to our main spammable, Flame Lash. The great thing about Flame Lash is the bottom portion here. Whenever you target an off-balance enemy, it changes into Power Lash, which does more damage, is cheaper, and it also gives you a beefy heal over time, over 2 seconds. And this can occur every 3 seconds. Now, we've got several different ways of stunning people and setting them off balance and rooting them. So this works really, really well on this build. It's decent, single target damage. It's fire damage, so it once again can proc your burning proc, and it also helps us with our sustain. Exactly what this kind of brawly, in-your-face Magicka DK needs. One thing to note about these tooltips, I'm unbuffed, and also the Malakath Band does not apply to the tooltip, so whatever you're seeing here, you're adding on at least 25% more on top of that, so the damage is definitely present with this build. Next skill is Burning Talons. We are using the Fire Damage morph, not the Maiming morph, because this also gets extended by Elfbane, so instead of being 4 seconds, this is actually 9 seconds. And it ends up being a fairly beefy dot over that duration. One thing to note with this skill, just when you're playing Magicka DK, is whenever someone dodge rolls, they get a 3-second root immunity. So you want to, as soon as you see someone dodge roll, just count that down in your head before you try and root them again. Important, because it's not the cheapest skill, so you don't want to be spamming this and wasting Magicka. It's also quite useful to pull people out of stealth if a Nightblade goes into stealth right next to you. You can use Talons to bring them out. Final skill on our front bar is Elemental Drain. This is very important because it gives us some of that penetration that we're missing from being in heavy armor, as well as helps us with our sustain. The ultimate, it shouldn't be Magma Shell, it should actually be Shifting Standard. Magma Shell is an alternative option when you're being super zerged down. This will give you some tankability, and again it gets its duration extended by Elfbane. So 18 seconds of near invulnerability is pretty good, pretty strong. But the main ultimate to be using on this is Shifting Standard. Shifting Standard comes in at a whopping 34 seconds with Elfbane. You can freely place this wherever you want, as many times as you want during that 34-second duration, and you can continue to build ultimate underneath that while you're doing the standard. So it's very, very strong. It also applies Major Defile. One of its best features And as you can see here, we've got a couple of points in the Befouled tree to increase the defile. This patch, healing's already reduced, so reducing it further is just fantastic. Remember, we're also running the charged disease glyph on the front bar ice staff, so that is guaranteed to proc minor defile every 4 seconds as well. So if someone's fighting you in your standard, they are not going to be having a good time. Onto the back bar. Let's have a look at the back bar. So we are running Protective Plate. This reduces damage taken from any incoming projectiles by 50% for 6 seconds. Also gives us immunity to, that's not it, immunity to snares and immobilizations for 2 seconds. So very useful for, if you're stuck in some snary shit, you can use this to get around the rock if you need to. If you're crossing some open ground and you've got Mr. Petsork over here and Mr. Snipe Lord over there. Shit, sorry, Mudcrab. You can flap your wings and make it across from one rock to the next. Not a problem. Next skill, as you've seen, is Blockade of Frost. This is fantastic on this build. It does 2 very important things for us. So first things first, let me find another Mudcrab. Do we have a mud crab? We do not have a mud crab. You'll do. So basically, what I'm going to be showing here is... oh crap. Because of the frost glyph that we've got on this, it's got a very high chance of proccing chilled. And when it procs chilled, it immobilizes the target. When the target's immobilized, that means that our Flame Lash is a Power Lash. And gives us extra healing, extra damage, better sustain. Fantastic. Also, the chilled status effect also causes the target to be minor maimed, so they do 15% less damage, which is useful, just passively adding to our tankiness. Armor buff is volatile armor. This is great. It also activates one of our very important DK passives, as most people know, Draconic Power. What's called Burning Heart. Yep, so we get extra healing while this is up, and it also does a decent dot actually. So if you are able to, you want to be using this. You want to be using this when you are right next to the enemy, and that way you've got the extra damage from that as well. It also does some return damage. DK staple here. Finally, we've got our 2 heals on this bar, Coag and Cauterize. The nice thing about having Cauterize here with a Coag is that the major prophecy that you get from having Cauterize slotted will contribute to our crit heal. So you can see on this bar we've got 38% spell crit, which means that having this in the front bar is useless because we're not critting with our attacks anyway. But if we're in trouble and we're getting low, it's really nice to be able to do a big crit Coag blood just to get your health back up. Very, very strong. The thing with Coag though is you need to not rely on this as a primary form of healing. This is an emergency heal only. It's too expensive and too passive to be spamming this up when you're getting low. So what you need to be doing really is throughout the fight using things like your Power Lash, things like your Shattering Rocks, your Cauterize and the passive heal from Heaties. All of those need to be the things that are keeping you up and alive. Coag should be reserved for those emergencies where you just need to save yourself from dying. But this should not be what you're crutching on for the majority of your healing. Cauterize, on the other hand, it takes 4 times over 15 seconds. Very, very powerful. This seems to be kept up all the time. Very, very good skill. Finally, our ultimate on the back bar is Ferocious Leap. This is probably the most used ultimate on this build, but we keep it on our back bar because it doesn't have any kind of dot associated with it, so we don't need to have it on our Elfbane bar. But because we are actually running 2 charged weapons, the damage difference, there's no real damage difference between our front bar and our back bar, so this is absolutely fine to have here. Very, very good skill, fairly cheap. It does good solid kind of upfront burst damage in an AoE. It gives you resources back because of your battle roar passive, and it also gives you a very beefy damage shield when you execute the ability. Very, very strong. Now, some alternative options here. I prefer not to be a vampire in this build. I think for this build, being a vampire, the only thing you're really doing is letting people hit you harder with Dawnbreakers and making your skills cost more. Protective Plate, if you use it properly, will give you enough mobility and damage reduction to be able to get from place to place. If you are really insistent on being a vampire, or if you've already got a vampire DK and you don't want to cure it, you can replace Protective Plate with Mist Form. That is certainly an option, but like I say, I prefer having Protective Plate here. One thing to note, put points into all of your passives, but in your Destruction Staff passive, don't put points into Trifocus. Because what this lets you do is this lets you keep blocking with your stamina bar when you're using your ice staffs, but at the same time you get your reduced blocking cost and increased blocking mitigation from the Ancient Knowledge passive, so don't put points into your Trifocus. Going into our champion points, so we are running 56 Warlord, 9 Sprinter, 1 Siphoner, 64 Arcanist, 11 Tenacity. This is just a quality of life thing to get the Master Gatherer. 56 Shadow Ward to reduce our block cost, 26 into Tumbling, and 47 into Befell. This gives us access to a stronger Defile on both our Disease Glyph and our Standard. Very, very good. 56 points into Shadow Ward is nice. Remember, we are also running a few sturdy pieces on the body. We're running 3 sturdy pieces on the body, and also Heaties acts like a gold sturdy piece as well, because while it's active, and it should be active all the time pretty much, it reduces the cost of your blocking as well. So we're not a perma block build, but we can certainly block for a long time, and we can easily outlast multiple attackers. Moving on to the blue tree, we've got 37 points into Blessed, just to try and offset some of the healing reduction we're seeing this patch. Nothing into Elfborn. We can't do critical damage, and being able to put our points elsewhere is one of the advantages of having the Malakath band. 56 into Elemental Expert, 46 into Spell Erosion, 56 Master at Arms, and then here in the Ritual tree we've got 72 points into Thaumaturge. We've got a fair few dots, and this boosts them all up, and 3 points into Piercing. This gives us 75 points for the Exploiter passive. A lot of our burst windows come during the off-balance phase, like I was talking about in my previous Stam Warden video. So it's very nice to have the extra 10% damage against off-balance enemies. The reason I've put 3 points into Piercing is because it slightly boosts the damage of your Disease Glyph. There's no point wasting 3 more points into Thaumaturge. It doesn't give you anything past the decimal. Moving into the red tree, 66 into Ironclad, 38 into Resistant. We can drop some points from here because we get our baseline impen this patch, so we don't need to be running quite so high in Resistant. 37 Hardy, 37 Ellie Defender, 48 Thick-Skinned. You can't block dots, so it's good to have a decent amount of points in the Thick-Skinned. You've got no cleanse, so being able to mitigate dot damage is important on a DK. And then finally here we've got 27 Quick Recovery, 3 Expert Defender, and 14 into Heavy Armor Focus. That means that when we buff up defensively, we've got 26.7k spell resist and 24k physical resist with 3k crit resist. Our unbuffed spell damage comes in at 2.3k, and our Magicka recovery looks a bit low here, but remember we've got heavy armor passives giving us Magicka back, and our DK's combustion passive also gives us Magicka back whenever we apply burning. Just to give a demonstration of that and show why we're running charged on this, let me try and... So you see that on the right there? That's burning. That's just refreshed. That's burning. That's burning. Every time that's proccing, every time that's refreshing, and that's just with Grothtar, that's giving us 500 Magicka back. So say we've got a bunch of enemies on us. We've got, the whole Black Dagger Zerg on us. And we've got a couple of, these things on. Look, every single person in this thing is burning. And Burning is normally a 3-second dot. With Elfbane, it becomes a 5-second dot, and it's constantly refreshing. And every time it refreshes, it gives us 500 Magicka back, 500 Magicka back, 500 Magicka back. Fantastic for sustain. Very, very important. Don't run sharpened, don't run learned, run charged on a DK, full stop. It's the same philosophy with the frost damage glyph as well. I know I showed this before, but I'll just repeat it one more time. So, look, instantly immobilized. And then every 4 seconds, when that glyph comes off cooldown, they'll get immobilized again. She's got immobilization immunity. Look at this chap. As soon as he comes in, someone's going to get immobilized. Yeah, very important. Immobilized, power lash. It works fantastic together. Very, very strong. Anyway, I hope that covers it. Yeah, so this was my Magicka DK build. I will segue into some more clips of this Magicka DK build. If you found this video helpful, leave a comment, leave a like, follow the channel. I'm going to try and put out some more build videos. My next project at the moment is a Magicka Necro build that I'm working on just now. So expect that in the near future. I've also got some fun vampire clips with some of my buddies. So yeah, that'll be coming out in the near future as well. But anyway, hope this was helpful. Any questions, leave them below, and I will see you next time.